Xiaomi 17 has a much larger battery capacity, camera sensor, and charging speed, while having even an extra telephoto camera that the iPhone 17 lacks. Naturally, you may ask yourself if these are enough reasons to pick the Xiaomi instead of the iPhone. I am Mo, and with the help of Anastasia, we are going to answer this today. Also, before we start, you should know Xiaomi 17 has a global and Chinese version. In this video, I'm using the global version, which is slightly lighter and the battery capacity is around 10% lower than the Chinese version. Since both of these phones are in the compact category, the form factor is one of the deciding factors. Xiaomi 17 is slightly heavier at 190 grams, while the iPhone 17 is 177 grams. Both have a similar width and thickness, but the height of Xiaomi 17 is longer than the iPhone. The display of both phones is 6.3 inches. They have a very similar resolution too. Both displays are 120Hz, but Xiaomi has a better PWM at 2160Hz. That means if you are PWM sensitive and don't want to have flickering on your phone, Xiaomi is the right choice. In terms of brightness, they are both super bright even in direct sunlight, and I wouldn't pick any of them over the other. Also, the iPhone has a dynamic island on the display for face unlock, while Xiaomi has an under-display ultrasonic fingerprint scanner. The iPhone 17 this year has an anti-reflective coating too, and that makes the phone visibility slightly better than Xiaomi 17 under direct light, but it is not at the same level as Galaxy Ultra phones. On the right side of the phones, the iPhone has a camera button and power button, while Xiaomi has both power button and volume rockers. On the other side, the iPhone has an action button and volume rockers, while Xiaomi's side is empty. On the back, Xiaomi 17 houses 3 cameras, an ultrawide, a wide and a telephoto lens, while the iPhone 17 only has 2 cameras, an ultrawide and a wide one. So any zoom more than one time will be a digital crop. The sensor size of Xiaomi 17 is more in line with a proper flagship phone size, while the iPhone is using a mid-range sensor size, which means it won't get as much light as the Xiaomi. Before we do the camera comparison, you should know Xiaomi has 2 main color modes, Leica Vibrant and Leica Authentic. This is a photo of Anastasia on Leica Vibrant compared to a photo from a Sony full-frame camera, and the colors in my opinion match quite well. The second photo is shot in Leica Authentic mode, and it is a bit more muted and also more contrasty. During the video, I always write down which mode is being used next to the photo. For reference, this is Anastasia, and this video is shot by a Sony full-frame camera. The iPhone camera is less wide at 26mm instead of 23mm on Xiaomi. That means when you take a picture from the same distance, the Xiaomi is going to fit more into the frame. The Xiaomi photos in both Leica modes are often more exposed, almost half a stop more than the iPhone. It also has more magenta in white balance compared to the green tone in the iPhone. iPhone photos also tend to be on the warmer side, especially for skin tones. The other noticeable difference is that you usually get more noticeable background blur on Xiaomi simply because the sensor size is larger. You get more light and bokeh is stronger. The magenta tone is also visible in Leica Authentic mode, as you can see here, especially if you look at the castle walls in the back. If you wonder why I can stay unbiased in my videos, it is because of a sponsor of the channel, like DJI. You probably know DJI for drones and cameras, but this is their first robot vacuum, the DJI Romo, and honestly, the object detection is insane. I have been using it non-stop for the last 3 months, and it changed my life for the better. It avoids pets, kids, cables, stairs, has millimeter level precision, and still get into tiny corners, and it is 200 days maintenance free, which means I never had to touch it so far. What really surprised me is the extendable mopping arm. It actually reaches edges and table legs most robots miss. I also have thick handmade carpets, and Romo detects them perfectly. It cleans the edges without clumping on or getting stuck. I'm using the P version now. It has the transparent design, flow deodorizer, and UV dust backlight. It has a 25,000 PA suction, LiDAR plus night vision, big water tank, and a self-cleaning base station. It is quiet, smart, and completely hands-off. I just set a schedule and forget about it. In the last 3 months, I have not done anything other than filling the water tank from time to time. It is simply one of my favorite products of the year, and I love having him around. I'll put the link in the description, and thanks to DJI for sponsoring this video. For video, interestingly, the iPhone is more on the exposed side, as you can see in this video, and Xiaomi did capture the moody tone of the scene better. Xiaomi does saturate the video more though, but overall there is not much of a difference between the footage, and they are both doing a great job. Xiaomi has an advantage though, and that's having a much more professional camera app, which has peaking, zebra, log support, and everything you can imagine. For example, here I did shoot the video with Xiaomi log and color graded it with their official lookup table for a softer look. For stabilization, they are both on par with each other, and to me there is no significant difference. As I mentioned, the Xiaomi 17 has a 50 megapixel telephoto lens that is 60mm. That's a game changer for portrait photos, as you generally don't want to be too close to the subject since the image won't be flattering. Both ones also have nice portrait photo processing. If you zoom in even further, like 120mm in this photo, you can see that the Xiaomi has an upper hand in terms of optical quality. You can also use the telephoto lens on Xiaomi to take telephoto macro shots. Another advantage of a telephoto lens is zoom pictures. Here, the iPhone 17 is at max zooming, while Xiaomi can cover a longer distance. I also assume Xiaomi is using AI more to reconstruct the images slightly. It is not as aggressive as some other phones like Pixel or Vivo. For the ultrawide camera, the iPhone has a wider lens. That means it can fit more into the frame, and that's a nice thing to have. In terms of processing and picture quality though, I wouldn't say the iPhone is doing better, and the larger sensor on Xiaomi is creating a less noisy picture. For selfies, both phones have a very wide selfie camera with comparable quality, but the iPhone is even better since it has a square sensor and can support horizontal selfies too. For low light and night photography, the larger sensor on Xiaomi helps a lot to take a less noisy photo. The colors here are punchy on Xiaomi because of Leica vibrance mode. As another example, you can see here Tanya's photo has higher optical quality on Xiaomi and the ISO is set to 500, which is great considering the lighting. Or here is another example, and if we zoom in into her eyes, you can see the difference even further. As a side note, I'm going to do more camera tests on Xiaomi 17 soon, so if you don't want to miss those videos, hit the subscribe button. Here is a zoom picture. You can see how having a dedicated telephoto lens makes Xiaomi create a simply better photo. And here, Xiaomi is processing the sky gradients more smoothly, and the sky is also more color accurate for the scene I was in. Next, we check the mic quality with our new opera singer star, Tanya. Where have you been?
Where have you been all my life? I was in a very cool Spanish operetta called Ben Amor, and it was spicy and fun.
That's cool. Okay. Regarding performance, the Xiaomi 17 is sporting a Snapdragon 8 Elite Generation 5, while the iPhone is on Apple A19. They should be almost identical in performance, but I ran Geekbench to be sure, and the iPhone has a better score on single core, while Xiaomi has a better multi-core score. On a daily basis, you won't see any difference. The battery capacity on the iPhone is 3692 mAh, while Xiaomi 17 is 7000 mAh for the Chinese version and 6330 mAh for global variant. I did a day in the live test on both phones with 4 hours of mixed social media, YouTube, and camera use, while being on a mix of 5G and Wi-Fi, and by the end of the day, the Xiaomi ended with a few percent more. But I did expect better performance from it. It does seem to me maybe HyperOS is draining the battery a bit. I'm going to do a proper battery test later. HyperOS 16 has its own unique look and feel compared to iOS 26 on iPhone, but generally there are a lot of elements that look familiar. For example, the quick settings are kind of similar, even though now with Apple Liquid Glass, the user interface is slightly different. Both also have Dynamic Island, even though Xiaomi doesn't really have a camera cutout there. The animations are also very similar to each other, and even the widgets and the way the weather app looks are the same on both phones. But of course, Xiaomi is Android at the end, and that's enough difference at a core. So should you go for Xiaomi 17 or the iPhone 17? If you want better camera hardware with superior camera software support, better charging speed, and prefer Android over iOS, Xiaomi 17 is the right choice for you. If you want to have an iPhone with iOS, iPhone 17 is the first completely base iPhone with a proper 120Hz display and a decent main and ultra-wide camera, even though it falls behind hardware-wise to Xiaomi. If you want to see how Xiaomi 17 compares to not only iPhone 17, but also Pixel and Galaxy, you can watch this video next. Thanks for tuning into Tecmo, and I will see you in the next one.